So I'm starting over again with my video lesson series because my previous video, which is still available on YouTube, I was actually shooting what I was doing off a flip camera, and it was kind of difficult to see what all was going on. So I'm kind of starting over right now, and I'm going to actually use a desktop recording software. And what I'm using right now is QuickTime, and I'm going to drag my arrow up here. You can see the little red dot that says stop recording, and so I'll essentially hit that when I'm finished. And what I've done to get these clips down here, these are the clips that I've imported for this purpose of showing my training video. And these come from a science fair that we had. And we're going to use these to kind of show some of the different nuances and things that happen here in iMovie. So the way I imported those was I basically went to File, Import, and I went to Movies. And what this allowed me to do was pull in movies that I had previously saved to my desktop from my flip camera. Now you can always import directly from the camera just by hitting import from camera, and if you have a camera hooked up you can import that way. Now one of the earlier problems I saw with importing movies straight from the camera is if you disconnect your audio, which we'll show in an advanced lesson later, then sometimes bringing it back together, your audio only plays in a mono situation, not stereo. So it's only playing out of one speaker instead of two, and that's very annoying, especially if you're wearing earphones, because you only get that one sound coming out of that side speaker. So anyway, this is the way I did it. I'm going to grab some of the video that we used in our previous lesson where it shows a student working on his Rube Goldberg machine, and he's got a judge that's kind of watching what's going on. So I'm going to grab a segment of that, and all I did was click on it with my mouse, and I held it down and clicked across. And if you notice to the right of my yellow bar there that's starting to pull across, you see how many seconds of video I'm grabbing. So I'm going to pull it across and give me about 20 seconds. Right about there. And once I let go of my mouse, it stays selected. And I can just click again with my mouse and drag it up into the editing window. And it's going to drop it there. Now I have, and when I click on it, it tells me it's 20 seconds of video. And what I want to do now is I'm going to click on my Earth over here, this little button on the side, and it gives me a series of background images that I can use. These top ones, the globes and the maps, they actually are great for social studies. They're great for other things. I've used them in my science lessons, where you can begin with a starting point and an ending point, and the background will move the map from that point, from point A to point B. And then the top ones here where it says curtain, organic, blobs, and underwater, those are motion backgrounds. And then below those are static backgrounds, which means there's no motion, but you have like a pattern or a solid color you can use behind you. Now my original lesson, I actually use this curtain, so I'm going to actually click on it and drag it up, put it right before my video, and you're going to see that it turns green to the upper left. And I'm going to drop it. It's defaulted to bring in 4 seconds when I drop something. And so you can always change that time if you double click it, and you can change that time to 6, 8, 12 seconds, half a minute, whatever you want to do, and then you can change it. And I'm essentially doing this to bring me into an introduction. And so now I'm going to go over here and click on my text tool, and I'm going to hover over some of these things and see what I want for my introduction. And so as I hover across them, you can see some movement happening. So I'm going to go with this one, and I'm going to just click and drag. And if you notice, if I just go to the front here, it's just going to show my text in that blue area, and then it'll vanish, which means I'll be back to a solid velvet screen looking thing there, or velvet curtain. And I don't want that. I want it to actually complete that whole 4 seconds. So I'm just going to drag it over towards the center. Everything turns blue, and then I'll release it. Now I'm able to edit my text over in this window. So I'm going to say video lessons. Lesson 1. And then if I say show fonts, then I can change the font that I have to different things. I can change my color. Always try to find a good contrasting color, like that yellow is kind of cool. So I'm going to click on it. I think I'm going to change the font though. I'm going to go impact. And over here I can change my size. And I don't want it too in your face, so I'm just going to stay with 6 here. You can change it to go centered, left justification, right justification. You can make it bold, italic, and so on. And I'm just going to say done here. Now if I go to the beginning of my video and I hit my space bar, here's what I'm going to see in the preview window. So it says video lessons, lesson 1.
This one will be raised up.
Then it gets into the video with the student. Now you saw a little bit of hesitation there. That's just because my memory is trying to catch up with what I'm doing. The more video you start getting into, the more layering you get into, the more complex the job becomes and the more shaky it becomes. But generally when you export it for purposes of putting on YouTube or something, you'll tend to find out that shakiness and jitteriness starts to go away. Okay, so if you notice when I go straight from my curtain over into my video, it's just pretty quick. It just drops in. So to kind of ease that transition, we're going to actually use a transition segment here. And I'm going to come over here and right next to my text window with that capital T, I'm going to click right here and I'm going to show my transitions. Same thing if you hover over them, you'll notice the way that those transitions will work. And I'm actually going to go to a page curl. So I'm going to click on it and drag it. Again, I'm looking to where it turns green and then I drop it. And if I just hover on it, it shows that transition takes about half a second. So basically 1/4 second came off my curtain, another 1/4 second came off of my video with the student. And so when I click it now, I'm just going to come over here and where the red bar is, I'm going to hit my space bar and let it play. So you'll see pretty fast. So I'm going to double click it and I'm going to make it take a little bit longer. We'll actually go a full second. I want to uncheck the box that says apply to all transitions, and that's because I don't want it being a full second every time. I just want this one instant to be a full second. I'll say done, and then I'll click again.
This one will be raised up.
Okay, now it was slower, and that works out pretty good because you hear the discussion with the student as it's moving over, so it kind of leads the viewer into the video. Now some other things we can do is we can add music. So I'm going to click on the little music sign. And I like to try to stay away from things that are copywritten. So iLife, which is the one that puts out iMovie, comes with a bunch of sounds that are royalty free. You won't get in trouble using them. And I'm going to go to my jingles. And if you remember, my curtain is now 3 seconds long because I shaved off some time in that little transition. So what I want to do in my jingles is I want to click on the time, and that allows it to work itself down the page as far as time sequences go. So if you notice, it goes from 5 seconds to 6 to 7 and so on and all the way down. And I want to try to maintain a sound that is relatively close to the 3 seconds that I have in my curtain. So I can double click them. Okay, so I want to find some music that's kind of capturing and also seems to fit a little bit. That highlight reel short is actually not too bad. It is a little bit long, but sometimes the music wraps up around the transition. So I'm just going to grab it and drag it. I want to go to the very beginning of my curtain and let it go. You'll notice it show up as a green bar. If you notice, it goes consistently past into the video. So let's just kind of play it and see what happens. That's really not too terribly bad because you know, there's nothing real interesting going on. It's still trying to grab your attention to your viewer whenever we get into the actual video of the student and the judge. And so I'm not, you know, real hung up on having to change it. But for this video, I want to show you how we can shorten this this song video or this music right here. And one quick way to do it is just grab the end. So I'm going to click on that yellow bar around the green bar. And so just that end, and I'm going to drag it back. Now the problem is now the music doesn't have a natural fade to it. So if I start playing it again, it just seems to stop abruptly. So what I want to do is double click it, go to audio. I want to override its natural fade out and go manual. And I'm going to drag it out for about 2.5 seconds. And really the time doesn't matter, it's just whatever sounds right. I'm going to try 2.5 and see what happens. And that means I want to make it fade a natural way instead of just abruptly stopping. So I'm going to say done. Go back here and play it again. Now see, I did shorten the audio there. I shortened the music side of it, and I made it seem to cut off more naturally. Now something else I can do is I can add text right here, give credit to the student. The student's name is actually Sawyer, and so what I want to do is go back into my text window, and I like this one right here, this echo. It's kind of like a big font shows up, and then it's kind of small, and what I want to do is drag it up. Now if I let it go right there, that means that text will fill that entire 19 seconds now of video. I don't want it there that whole duration, so I'm going to pull it back and kind of move it around, and I'm going to let it go right there. And that's 4 seconds of video, or 4 seconds of text. And so I'm going to just put Sawyer project. And then down here in the subtitle, I can just put in a judge oversees, or no, we'll say a judge is in the process of discussing Sawyer's project. And then we'll click off of it. And so now when I play it, it's going to look like this. Okay, so that kind of gives the student a little bit of credit. Also lets the audience know, the viewer, kind of what's happening in this scene that we see right here. So as Sawyer's talking a little bit about it, there's some other things we can do too. Because one thing that's mindful of me as the editor is that Sawyer is not speaking to the camera. He's not speaking a whole lot to the judge, but we want to give a little indication to what's going on in this. What's the whole point of this project? And so one way we can do this is maybe after the text starts to fade off, we can see, okay, we can maybe do a voiceover. And you see this a lot in documentaries. You see it a lot in movies. If you ever watched Matilda, it's a great video where Danny DeVito is actually the narrator talking over the entire film throughout, where he kind of gives an essence to the viewer, what's going on. And just throughout the entire scene, you see this. And so voiceovers are very common, and we see them a lot in advertising. We just see them all the way through. And one way we can do a voiceover is we can click on this microphone. And if you notice right now, it's got green bars, which means how much of this built-in microphone is allowing my voice to pick up. And we don't want it to overpower it. So if I start shouting really loud, you'll notice the green bars go up. I want to be able to talk in a natural voice. I want to use the voice enhancement, which allows the tone of my voice and the level of my voice, the volume, to remain pretty consistent as I'm talking. And the voiceover is really a cool feature because if you mess up, you can just redo it, re-record, and it's just fine. And so what I'm going to do is click kind of where I want the voiceover to be. And so you'll see my red line. I want my voiceover to come in just right at the tail end of as that text is fading away. And so you can kind of run your cursor over it, kind of see that point when it's fading away. I'm going to click right there. Back that up just a second. It's not quite where I want it. So I'm going to double click it. Okay, so Sawyer is here at our science fair, and he's showing the judge his Rube Goldberg machine and kind of what was put into place in regard to the way he developed his ideas. Now I'm going to stop it there, and you'll see that my voiceover is now in purple. And the way I stopped it was I just clicked my mouse and it stopped recording. And you notice my voiceover window is still available in case I mess up. So I'm going to click right here. Okay, so Sawyer is here at our science fair, and he's showing the judge his Rube Goldberg machine and kind of what was put into place in regard to the way he developed his ideas. Now what's kind of neat, if you noticed it, is that the background noise in the video kind of dropped back as I was talking, and that's because there's a default setting in my voiceover. I'm going to go ahead and click out of this window, by the way. And if I double click my voiceover, I can do all sorts of stuff, but first thing I want to look at is click on my audio. And my audio shows that my ducking is automatically turned on. And essentially what ducking is, it allows the volume of any background sound, music, to be reduced when I'm talking. That way my voice has prominence over what might be going on. So it just keeps the reader attentive to what's being said and those types of things, or the viewer, not the reader. And other things you could do, you can go back to clip and you could slow down the track a little bit. So I'll show you how kind of goofy this can be. But it has, and the only reason I'm showing it now is it has some relevance. You'll see some videos that I've made where I've actually done some of these things. I can speed up my voice or slow it down. I'm going to slow it down right here. And you can incrementally slow it down. Like right now it went to 50% of my normal voice speed. But you can also type in a different number like 80. And you can be very specific. You could go 82, 83%. But I'm going to say done just so you can hear what happens now. So I'm going to come over here and I'm just going to click my space bar so you can hear my voice now.
Okay, so Sawyer is here at our science fair and he's showing the judge his Rube Goldberg machine.
So that's kind of interesting because sometimes you can camouflage your voice. I'm going to double click and I'm going to speed it up just a little bit. So I'm going to go to like 104%, something slight. See what happens there. Okay, so Sawyer is here at our science fair and he's showing the judge his Rube. Makes my voice a little bit higher. Can continue to do that to where it's more distinct. So we'll go 115%. Say done.
Okay, so Sawyer is here at our science fair, and he's showing the judge his Rube Goldberg machine. And
so there's lots of kind of cool things you can do with that. I'm going to actually just come back to audio, put it at 100%, and leave it there. Okay, so let's say that we're kind of done at this point. Judge his Rube Goldberg machine, and kind of what was. Some of my voice clipped off when I did that, so I'm going to come back and re-drag it out. What was put into place in regard to the way he developed his ideas. Okay, what I want to do now is, after my voiceover, I want to come in with another segment of a clip. So I'm going to come over here to another judge that's evaluating some girls in their project. And so I'm just going to grab a segment of that. And again, that yellow bar kind of shows me what I'm grabbing. I'm going to grab about 11 seconds. And I'm going to pull it up and just drop it right on the end of the Sawyer video. And so if I watch it now, here's what's going to happen. Okay, it just immediately drops into the next video. So I want to put another transition in. So I'm going to go over here and let's do a cross zoom. And I'm going to drag it up here. I'm going to let it go. And as I look at it now, now I want that to actually be a little longer again. So I'm going to actually go to 1 second also. I don't want it to default. Just, you know, at times I want to go this route. So now I'll watch it again. That just allows a viewer to say, hey, something different is changing here. And what I want to do here is add a little music behind the video, because if you notice it's really silent when I play it. You know, the judge is just watching these girls, and they're kind of, you can tell they're a little intimidated maybe by the judge being there looking at their stuff. You can notice there's no real interaction. So I want to actually take away some of that discomfort for the viewer. So I want to add a little music behind that. And this video, if you remember, is 10 seconds long now because the transition took a little bit. So I'm going to try to find a little music that might work. Okay, I'm going to go with this one right here and just drag it to the beginning. Now one thing you'll notice is there's like a little anchor on the music, and so if I drag the music over with my hand a little bit, you'll notice the anchor stays on the clip itself, meaning that if I delete that clip, the music's going to go away. But I'll actually want that music to come in a little bit before that transition. So like right now if I play it. Okay, and so that's going to go on for a little while. What I want to do now is I actually want to trim this clip a little bit because I have an idea in my mind. I want to show judges and the interaction of the community and our science fair a little bit. So what I want to do is keep about, I don't know, about half this segment. I'm gonna right click or control click if you're on a Mac, and I'm going to split my clip. What it does, it divides it now. If I click there, it's all yellow. If I click here, it's all yellow. But if you notice, my music was attached to my first portion of the clip. So I can delete the second portion. And if you notice, the green bar for my music trimmed off to that point. And the reason it did that was because it knows there's no video. At the point when I get to that end, everything stops. And so if I want that music to continue for some other portion that I grab, then I'm going to have to extend that out. So let me kind of show you what that looks like. So we had a reporter here at our science fair from our local news station, and I'm going to grab her kind of talking to the students a little bit. And I'm just going to grab a segment of that. And that's about 13 seconds or so. And I'm going to pull it up right here. Now, if you notice, the green bar did not extend back out, so I'm going to have to click on it and drag it across. And of course, it's not for the full video. And where it came in, I want it to actually come in a little bit later than that. So I'm going to drag the green bar a little bit and let the beginning of the song kind of come in right where that transition plays. So here's what it's going to look like when I play it. That was actually a pretty good blend because you can hear the student talking to the news reporter at that point when the music fades off. One thing I don't like abrupt cut-ins on the transitions, so I'm going to go back to my transitions because I added a new clip, and I'm going to add let's go to the ripple effect. I'm going to drop it right there, and I'm going to leave it about a half second, see what it does. Okay, so it's essentially a pretty quick transition, but it works really well. And so I want to come in with a voiceover because my whole idea was to kind of give an impression to the audience what's going on with this video. So again, I'm going to do a voiceover, and I want to start it just a few seconds into this music right here. So right about there, which is my 23-second mark, as you can see, that's where I kind of want to start my voiceover. So I'm going to click again on the microphone. And I'm going to come up here at 23 seconds, and I'm going to double click, and I'm going to start recording a little bit of what's in my mind right now. So let's kind of go with this. At our science fair, we get lots of local community members to come and judge, some from an area Pantex plant and some others that are just local newscasters. Now, I hesitated when I shot that or said that, so I didn't really like the way that came off. So I'm going to actually delete that purple bar because I want to re-record that. And so all I did was selected it and hit delete. I'm going to come back and do that again at 23 seconds. Okay, during our science fair, we have local community members come and help judge. And we also grab the attention of newscasters that come out and regularly film us. Okay, so kind of see how that goes now. We'll kind of hit the space bar and play that through a second. Okay, during our science fair, we have local community members come and help judge, and we also grab the attention of newscasters that come out and regularly film us.
Grade-wise, I guess, because we do get graded on.
Okay, so that seems to work pretty well. Of course, it can continue to go on. We can continue to add new things. But for this particular lesson, we kind of looked at adding background images to start our videos with. We looked at adding some small segments of music, and we added some type. We also looked at transitions and how to do a simple split clip. And we also looked how to shorten some of our audio. And we'll leave it at that for our first lesson. And we'll get started right now on our second lesson. So if you want to learn more, just go to the very next lesson in this series and click on the second set.